Nearly 2,000 years after Joseph stood before Pharaoh, the Roman historian Suetonius recorded a set of omens surrounding the rise of the emperor Vespasian, a man of undistinguished birth who, through a series of unlikely signs and interpretations, ascended from obscurity to rule the known world. In his Life of Vespasian, Suetonius reports that an ancient oak tree on the family estate suddenly put forth a new shoot for each of Vespasian's children, and that the shoot belonging to the future emperor grew so vigorously it seemed to promise the fortune of the whole tree. He reports as well a dog that dropped a severed human hand beneath Vespasian's table when he dined, a grim portent that diviners read not as a threat, but as a sign of dominion, since hand and power shared a common field of meaning in the omen-reading tradition. When Vespasian's forces besieged Jerusalem, Josephus himself, a captured Jewish general turned court historian, reportedly told him to his face that he would become emperor, an interpretation of circumstance so audacious it was initially met with chains rather than honor. Only later, when the office actually fell into Vespasian's hands, was the interpreter's word vindicated and the interpreter himself elevated. Suetonius is no friend to the biblical worldview. He writes as a Roman aristocrat, cataloging curiosities for a Roman readership, and he has no interest in Israel's God. But the pattern he preserves is instructive precisely because it's so widespread in the ancient world. An unlikely man, marked by signs he did not orchestrate, ascends to supreme authority through the correct reading of a message embedded in reality, a dream, a portent, an omen, and the one who first speaks the true interpretation is himself lifted from danger into favor. The ancient Near East and the Greco-Roman world that inherited so much of its symbolic vocabulary took it for granted that the divine communicated through dreams and signs, that kings depended on interpreters to decode the will of heaven, and that the interpreter who spoke truly could rise as high as the throne itself. Genesis 41 belongs in the same world of discourse. Pharaoh's court has its own professional class of dream readers, its own conviction that the god-king's dreams carry the freight of the nation's future, its own expectation that the correct reader of the dream deserves a correspondingly great reward. But Genesis 41 does not simply repeat the pattern, it subverts it from the inside. The hero of this chapter is not a native Egyptian magician trained in the guild craft of interpreting omens, but a Hebrew slave fresh from an Egyptian dungeon, who begins his audience with Pharaoh by disclaiming the very competence Pharaoh is seeking. It is not in me, God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Where Suetonius' Rome credits omens to impersonal fate or to the gods of the state cult, and where Egypt's own scribes will credit the reading of dreams to the trained skill of the Hartumim, the book of Genesis insists on a single, unambiguous source. This is the word of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, working through the exile of a single despised son to secure the future of the whole world, Egypt included. That is the claim this teaching intends to unfold in full.
Hey everyone, welcome to Covenants and Kingdoms. I am your co-host Brad, along with...
Hi, I'm Nathan. How are you? Nice to see you.
And we're back still in Genesis, but we're getting close to the end. Sort of. We're still, 9 chapters away.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Creeping along.
Before we get to that, of course, we are brought to you by Baba Java Coffee, a specialty coffee roaster based here in Birmingham, Alabama. We select, roast some of the best coffees in the world. And you can go to our website at babajavacoffee.com, use the code COVENANTS at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your order. Or even come into a cafe, grab a latte or something. Very good.
And if you buy 100 pounds of coffee,
make it 500.
500 pounds of coffee, Brad will come to your house. He will spend a day with you and interpret all your dreams and omens.
Oh, wow. I'll have to learn that skill. But I think we can do it.
I think we've got an ancient Egyptian class on how to do that. Or maybe we should just depend on the Lord.
Maybe we should.
But Brad will do it.
I'll do it. 500 pounds, I'm coming. How am I getting there, though? I guess I can just drive it.
You will ride on a camel.
Winged camel?
Well, that would be awesome if there was a winged camel.
That would be cool. It needs to have its own.
You know, in all of mythology, I've never seen a depiction of a winged camel.
Never.
You would think with all the lore of the Arabian world, there would be some winged camel.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Pegasus.
Yeah.
There's
Griffins.
There's all these other creatures that have wings and can fly, but there's no winged camel. We need to come up with our own winged camel mythology.
Well, that sounds like a job for Randy and Matt.
Let's go. Let's go, people. Creative people.
Creative types.
A winged camel mythology.
Yeah, I'll get my daughter Lucy to draw something up.
Yes.
She'll have us something good. All right. Moving on. All right, we're in Genesis 41.
Genesis 41. Let's read it. Let's read Genesis 41, and then we're gonna talk about. We're gonna place it where it is. We always want to remember where we are and kind of where we're going, and then we'll talk. We'll go with our exegesis of going through the verses.
After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, thin cows ate up the 7 attractive, plump cows, and Pharaoh awoke. And he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Behold, in my dream I was standing on the banks of the Nile. 7 cows, plump and attractive, came up out of the Nile and fed in the reed grass. 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and thin, such as I had never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the thin, ugly cows ate up the first 7 plump cows, but when they had eaten them, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were still as ugly as at the beginning. Then I awoke. I also saw in my dream 7 ears growing on one stalk, full and good. 7 ears, withered, thin, and blighted by the east wind, sprouted after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 good ears. And I told it to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land, and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot, and they called out before him, "Bow the knee." Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphenath-Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. Before the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, "God has made me forget all my hardship and all of my father's house." The name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. There was famine in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. What he says to you, do." So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth.
That's Genesis 41. So let's talk about like the narrative placement of where we are here. Remember Genesis 37, Joseph had Joseph's 2 dreams, sold by his brothers into Egyptian slavery. Genesis 30, we skip in Genesis 38, we go back into another story of Judah, right? Genesis 39, we talked about Joseph's faithful service to Potiphar. He's falsely accused, he's in prison, even though he's innocent. And we went through many reasons why he was in prison instead of executed. Genesis 40, he interprets the cupbearers and bakers' dreams in prison and asks to be remembered. Yet, the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him.
Oof. He didn't fare well, though, after that.
Genesis 41, third and climactic dream cycle. The personal destiny, 37. 2 officials, 40. The whole ancient economy, 41. 13 years passed between the pit, when he was a teenager, and the throne room. Verse 46, when he was about age 30 or so. Okay? So it's been, over a decade.
Yeah.
Just think about you're depending on the Lord. I mean, and we don't remember this. We don't think about this kind of stuff. But you're sitting there. The Lord promises to be with you.
Yeah.
He promises to, you believe the things that your father always told you about Yahweh. The Lord himself told you he would be with you. You believe it. But it's 13 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a long time.
It's hard to not be discouraged at that point and just basically give up, right?
It would be very difficult.
So in Genesis 41, what we're going to see these kind of 4 movements. So in verse 1 through 8, we're going to see the 2 dreams of Pharaoh. Egypt's entire professional class fails to interpret them. In verse 9 through 36, Joseph is summoned and interprets the dreams. Remembered, cleansed, interprets, and proposes policy because of that interpretation. Verse number 3, verse 37 to 45. Joseph is exalted, the exaltation of Joseph. He receives a signet, which we'll talk about the significance of that, linen, gold chain, chariot, new name, and an Egyptian wife. Okay? That's important. Okay? We'll talk about all those things. Plenty, famine in all the earth, verse 46 through 57. Sons born, grain is stored, and all the nations of the earth come to Egypt. Okay? In the A&E background, so let's talk about this. So there's 2, we want to talk about the timing of when this occurs. Okay, we talked about this a little bit when we did kind of our Egyptian history. But there's basically two views of when this actually occurs. And I vacillate between the two because there's really amazing scholars, even people that are have a biblical worldview that believe both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about it. The first is the Middle Kingdom view. And probably that's where I am right now, but I don't know exactly. The early date Exodus framework, okay? So if we go based on 1 Kings 6:1, we're talking about 1446 BC. Okay, this places Joseph in the late 12th dynasty. They're the era of Senusret III, or Amenemhat III. Strong centralized bureaucracy capable of nationwide grain requisition. Okay? This Fayum Basin irrigation project fits large-scale water agricultural management like Joseph's into this same type time frame. The Beni Hassan tomb painting, it shows Semitic traders entering Egypt in this period. Okay, so we have all these views that support the Middle Kingdom view. Okay, so another view, an alternative view, which a lot of biblical people that have a biblical worldview, scholars that have a biblical worldview support this. And at times, this makes sense too. It's called the Hyksos era alternative. So Donald Redford and others has proposed that a Semitic dynasty ruled the Eastern Delta at this time, which we think they did, okay, at later after the Middle Kingdom. This would make a Hebrew's rise less remarkable. So if we have a Pharaoh who is a Western Semitic person, it wouldn't be as weird for another Western Semitic person to rise to power and be basically second in charge of the kingdom, basically in charge of the whole kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay? This is in tension with the text's tones of astonishment. The text never names a specific Pharaoh. The theological claim doesn't depend on the chronology. Both views are feasible options in current scholarship.
Yeah.
Okay? Even again, current scholarship period, but even people that have a biblical worldview that are current scholars. So I don't know. Does it matter?
Not really.
No, it doesn't matter when it actually occurred. It occurred. It happened.
Yeah.
Okay, we believe it happened.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when. Whether we think it's here or here, it doesn't. I mean, It doesn't change what happened. So I don't know. So I kind of vacillate back and forth. I understand the Hyksos view, but I understand the Middle Kingdom view too. So anyway. Dream divination in Egypt and Mesopotamia. We've talked about this a little bit before. So the Mesopotamian Zikuku dream omen series. They have these dream images that are systematized into interpretive categories. So it's established that in the A&E, we have these dream interpretation. It's not really codified at this point, but systems and methodologies. Okay.
Basically, it's like if you have this type of dream, this is what
right.
it
This
means.
is what it
If
means.
you have
And
this type of dream.
Yeah, the gods are trying to convey this. The gods are trying to convey this. All right. So then we talked about the Egyptian Chester Beatty dream book, okay, which is the Ramesside era. It's a catalog. It's catalogs that catalog dream images with a good, bad verdict and symbolic rationale. So it's more codified. So if this happens, this is what it means. As if this happens, this is what it means. If this is the dream, this is what it means. And it's almost like a flow chart of dream and result, good or bad. All right. Pharaohs, magicians, okay, the Khartimim, these magicians, Khartimim, were Egyptians' most credentialed dream scientists. They're not, when we talk about magicians, we're either talking about people that are, illusionists,
sleight of hand
or
guys.
charlatans, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's nobody that can really do magic.
Yeah.
Right. But in this era, in this culture, they're not charlatans. They're not tricking. They really believe they could fulfill some of these. And when we get into Exodus, we'll see Exodus, and even in Exodus, we'll see that they really could do some of these things. Yeah. Okay. So they by their culture standards, they're not deceiving or tricking. Okay. Their failure is theological, not technical. This dream's meaning lies outside Egypt's entire interpretive apparatus and methodology. All right, so the dream is doubled, cattle, then grain, which is an A&E convention making certainty and urgency. And it's explained within the text itself in verse 32, which we'll see. Okay? And we've talked about this before too. What Ma'at and Pharaoh's role in achieving Ma'at and maintaining Ma'at. Okay? So Pharaoh is a living Horus, the mediator between the gods and people, between the gods, the spiritual realm and the physical realm. All right? He's personally responsible for Ma'at, this cosmic social order, okay, which we've talked about before. Agricultural abundance was the visible sign of Ma'at. Famine signaled a crisis of royal legitimacy. So Joseph is not just solving a logistics problem. He is. He's also rescuing Pharaoh's own claim to divine legitimacy. And he does so by pointing to Yahweh, the greater God.
Yeah.
Okay? Egypt's economy depended on the annual Nile flood. So it's a, a known cycle. Okay?
Yeah.
Floods, fertility comes, grain comes, and then it goes back to and then it recedes. And there's a cycle over and over again, the same every year. And the Pharaoh and his relationship with the gods is responsible for producing this Ma'at in this cycle, okay? For maintaining Ma'at in this cycle. A run of low floods produce exactly this type of multi-year famine. Okay, so for whatever reason, if you have 7 years of low floods, you could have famine like this, like is described in Genesis 41. So if we look at Sehel's Ptolemaic era famine stela, it retrojects a 7-year famine onto Djoser's reign, an independent cultural echo of the pattern. Okay, not direct corroboration, but it just kind of shows a similar type system, a similar type example. Okay. So Egyptian court ritual and titulary. So if we look at, and we'll talk about this when we get to verse 41 through 45, when Joseph is exalted to his place, he receives a signet ring. This is the transfer of the delegated executive and legal authority onto Joseph. Okay. We see fine linen, this Egyptian shesh, the elite status marker. So only the elite in society would wear this type of clothing, this type of fine linen. The gold chain, likely the shebu, a collar of royal honor. We've seen that in depictions of Egyptian art and things. A collar of royal honor attested in New Kingdom tomb reliefs, and we'll see the gold chain is what it calls it in the Bible, but it's like a collar.
Yeah.
Okay. Bling. It's Egyptian bling.
As one of my baseball coaches used to say, a Mr. T starter kit.
It's like Mr. T. That's exactly what it is. A second chariot. Okay. Public rank second only to Pharaoh. Okay. A new throne name. Zephaniah mirrors the genuine Egyptian throne naming conventions at a session. Okay. So marriage to Asenath, the daughter of the priest On of Heliopolis. It makes alliance with Egypt's highest religious aristocracy. So he marries a really high, one of the highest priests' daughters, which again, he wouldn't be able to do that unless he's a really high official. So it's really significant. All right. Plenty and famine as covenant categories. Okay, in Genesis 41, we see Egypt's famine as providential. Okay, it positions Joseph, preserves and also preserves the covenant family. Okay, it's not punitive. It's something that occurs so that God would be glorified and the covenant is preserved. Okay, and we know it's not punitive because God establishes a means by which to save people during this time instead of just punishing them.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Deuteronomy consequences of sin type punishment, like judgment type thing. Okay. It's different than that. It's actually a beautiful covenantal picture of how God uses natural things that happen on earth, good and bad, to establish and maintain the covenantal relationship that he has. Okay. We'll talk about that. Deuteronomy 28 later makes grain abundance a sign of covenant blessing and blight, famine, the consequence, right? We talked about that, but this is different than that. This gives Israel's later prophets a ready-made vocabulary, agricultural catastrophe as covenant communication. So Genesis 41 supplies the prophets their narrative paradigm. Deuteronomy supplies their covenant legal grammar. Okay, now let's get into it. So let's read, so we talked about the dream, verse 1 through 8. So let's reread that.
After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, and behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came up out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly thin cows ate up the 7 attractive plump cows, and Pharaoh awoke, and he fell asleep, and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing in one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh.
Shnatim Yamim. Shnatim Yamim. 2 years of days. Okay? Emphasizes the period's full completion. Okay? So it's bringing it about to completion is what it means. Okay?
So it may not be an actual time period, or it is.
It may be, but it's also symbolic.
Okay.
It may be literally
2 years.
2 years. Okay. But it also it's the way it's in Hebrew, the way it is phrased is 2 years of days. Okay, emphasizes it's like
I got you.
Completion. Okay. Al-Hayor, a dream set by the Nile. Okay, this is Egypt's lifeblood and theological center. Okay, so it's really important. Okay. So we talk about, all right, and this is interesting. We talk about the fat cows versus the thin cows. All right. So bari, the fat cows, the fat, healthy cows. and then we talk about how the thin cows devour but remain gone. So what does that mean? Why does he talk about it like that? So we have these fat cows, these fat cows, and then we have these thin, gaunt cows that devour them, but it satisfies nothing.
Yeah.
So why would he phrase it like that?
Good question. Shows that they eat but not satisfied.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Odyssey? The movie The Odyssey.
But
Okay.
I read the book many years ago.
If you've read The Odyssey, you know Circe is kind of they go to this island or they land on this island and they encounter Circe. So Odysseus's men encounter Circe and she changes them into pigs, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, in the poem, it doesn't really go into exactly. I don't think if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think it tells exactly how she turned them into pigs. It just says she turned them into pigs. Well, in the movie, the Nolan interpretation, the men go and they're sailors and they've been sailing and they're starving, right? They need some food, so they go and they're seeking sustenance. So they go and they ask her for food. And they meet Circe. Odysseus and other guys back watching the ships. They make Odysseus stay back. So they go and Circe says, "Oh yes, I have plenty of meat," and so she feeds them, and they are just devouring, and they're eating, and they're eating, and they're eating, and they can't be satisfied. They can't be satisfied. They keep eating and keep eating and keep eating, and as they, that it shows, it's her way of showing what type of animal she's going to turn them into.
I see.
So they're pigs, just devouring and devouring, no satisfaction. And so she turns them into pigs. So anyway, when I saw the movie, it made me think of this exact phrase. The lean cows were devouring the fat cows, and they can't be satisfied.
Yeah.
It also reminded me back when we were visiting Bedouin villages in Jordan. All right. So we'd go and we'd do these pushes where we go and visit the leadership of the villages, so we could see if we could do some projects and stuff there. So we would visit these villages, and in some villages, they wanted us. The most important person we needed to talk to was the sheikh.
Yeah.
Okay. So like the most important religious figure in the village. Okay.
Right.
Kind of the leader of the. Sometimes they had. Like an elder type thing. Yeah. And he was like the leader of the elders. He was the sheikh. Sometimes we would visit the sheikh. And sometimes in some villages, it was more of a political thing. So they had a government appointed person named the rais of the society. Okay. So this rais is the person we would visit in some villages. It just kind of depended on which village it was, okay, which was more important, the political side or the more traditional side. So the more traditional villages, we'd visit the sheikh. And the more modern villages would visit the rais. So anyway, I remember this one. We would visit either the sheikh or the rais, and you'd always sit down and you drink tea and drink. Well, in the more affluent villages, they'd give you coffee. In Jordan, most of them weren't. It was mostly tea villages. So we called them coffee villages or tea villages. So in the tea villages, the ones where that weren't as affluent, you drink tea. So you'd sit down, you discuss everything, you talk about, hey, we just want to come and help you guys and serve you guys, and we talked about some of the medical pushes we could do. Yeah. We talked about some of the, aid distribution if they needed it. If we talked about some of the economic development stuff we wanted to do. But I remember, sometimes they would want to invite you to lunch, right? If you come and talk, because it's just an honor. That's their culture does. Is they want to honor you, hospitality culture type thing. So most of the time they did. So they invite us to lunch, and we, if they invite you to lunch, you're obligated to go and eat lunch with them, right? So almost always in Jordan they serve mansef. Yeah. Okay. That's just what they do. Mansef. That's my favorite. So I loved it. All right. So at the more affluent villages, you'd go and you'd eat mansef. And mansef is this jamid yogurt sauce over rice with lamb and spices and things like that. Everybody did it just a little bit different. Everybody had their own recipe for mansef. Tasty. I love it. So some of the villages they didn't have any goats available, so they would do chicken. But they try not to do chicken because that's a little bit shameful for them to serve chicken as mansef to foreign people that are trying to come help. So some of the tea villages were chicken, and the coffee villages were goat. Well, they always wanted to do goat if they had goat because that's what you're supposed to have with mansef. Well, I remember there was this one particular one. I mean, it was between where Wadi Musa was, and you go down the hill into the valley. You go into where Wadi Rum is, and then you go through the Wadi Rum desert, and you go down into where Aqaba is. Okay, and so down in when you're down in the valley, some of those little small villages out there are really remote. I mean, they're out there. Sure. Okay. Yeah. And so some of them are really poor. I mean, it's just the way they've been doing it for to modern standards. They're really poor. Okay. So I remember we went to this one village, and they were really excited to see us. I mean, they were really hospitable. Very open, but they were they didn't have anything. They didn't even have Toyota Hiluxes in this village. All right. Wow. They didn't have cars. They had one truck for the whole village. All right. Wow. And so anyway, they were really poor, and so they asked us to come eat lunch, and Debbie, who was one of the people on our team who had been there before, said, "I don't think we really want to eat lunch at this place." Oh. And I was like, "We have to." Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to. We have to. Yeah. And she's like, just trust me. We don't want to eat. So we go, and I make us. I'm the team leader, so I make us go and we go and eat, and so it's rice and the jamid like they always do, and then this goat comes out. It is the thinnest. I mean, who knows how old it is? You can tell really bad meat. Yeah, just look at it and you're like, whoops. Yeah. So Debbie was right. It was really thin and old. Yeah. Goat that they served us. I didn't eat that. You pretend to eat. Yep. And you don't really eat it. There's ways you learn how to do those type of things.
You hold it in your hand for a long time.
Yeah, you hold it and you talk, and you're doing your thing. But this story makes me think of that goat, a really thin, gaunt goat. There's are cows, obviously, but if you've seen a really old, thin animal, this is what it's like. This is what Pharaoh's dreaming here. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. That was a long story just to get to that one point, but I thought it was interesting. All right. So the second dream is similar. Okay, we have this grain blighted by Kadim. Kadim. This is the first instance we're going to see this Kadim. Okay, then we'll see this again. This east wind. All right. Consistently, the wind of judgment, desiccation across the Hebrew Bible. Okay, and Hosea 13:15, we see that. Let's read that. Read Hosea 13:15.
Though he may flourish among his brothers, the east wind, the wind of the Lord, shall come rising from the wilderness, and his fountain shall dry up, his spring shall be parched, it shall strip his treasury of every precious thing.
Yeah, so it's this wind, this Kadim, this wind of judgment. Okay. And we'll see this over and over again several times in the Hebrew Scriptures, okay? Verse 8. This is the key verse. Ein poter. There's no one who could interpret, okay? Ein poter, okay? So we have this patron, to interpret. This is the chapter's key word. All right, so we're looking for someone who can interpret these dreams. Mm-hmm. And none of the people knew what it meant. None of their class of magicians, this special class who were trained their whole life to be able to interpret these things. Ein poter. There's no one who can interpret these things, okay? Egypt's crisis becomes a crisis of interpretation. The message is present. The key is absent. Okay, the key is locked in prison. Right?
Yeah.
Joseph's in prison. Yahweh is ready to use him. Yahweh has promised to be with him, and he has been, but just in not the way that humans want him to be with us. You know, when we want God to be with us, we want him to be with us in greatness and majesty and accomplishment and, you know, the things that we think of as great.
Right.
But that's not how he works, because he's not, as we see in our deeper waters, he's not in time and space in the way that we do things, okay?
Right.
He's outside of those things. And so Joseph has to wait. So verse 9 through 16. All right. So let's read these verses.
Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today, when Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief cupbearer in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. We dreamed on the same night, he and I each having a dream with its own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they quickly brought him out of the pit. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came in before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I've had a dream, and there's no one who can interpret it. I've heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer.
Okay, so just think about this. Verse 9. Pharaoh is ticked off, right? He's mad. He's very angry because nobody can interpret his dream. He wants to know, I mean, again, you know, we've all had, and we don't live in this culture where dreams are so important, like in A&E. But we all had these dreams where you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? I mean,
yeah,
that was intense, or that really was impactful on me, or whatever. All right. So Pharaoh had one of these. So in this culture, dreams are important, and he has these dreams, right? So he's like panicking. He knows it means something, right?
Yeah.
All his guys, impoter, nobody can interpret it. All his guys that are, I mean, he's invested, you know, whatever, however much money in training these guys to be able to interpret dreams. That's their livelihood. That's all they do. Yeah. All right. That you had one job, right? And they screwed it up. So he's mad. He's angry. He's invested in these people. He trusts these people. And as we said before, it's not just about a dream and what's going to happen. It's about his legitimacy as Pharaoh, because he's responsible for all the people. He's responsible for Ma'at. So he's not just the king that's responsible for the people. He's responsible for all the things, even the cosmic balance between the heavens and the earth, the Ma'at. He's responsible for that, right? And he feels that responsibility. And so he has to know what this means, all right? So, and then this stupid cupbearer, I mean, just living life. Hey, I'm the cupbearer. We talked about how important of a position that was.
Yeah.
And then, so even through all these dreams, he's around all this. He's in the court. I mean, he's there with Pharaoh all the time because he's the cupbearer. So he sees all these magicians coming, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know," you know. Mm-hmm. And then, it an epiphany. It finally hits him. I remember my offenses today. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't remember this. Yeah, we can't either, right? But God had a plan. It's okay. It said Pharaoh was angry with his servants. Now, when he was angry with his servants, when he put them in jail, he talked about what happened with Joseph, and we went through that in chapter 40, exactly what all those things mean and the significance of those, right? So he talks about how he was restored and the baker was hanged, just like Joseph said, right?
Yeah.
Verse 14, then Pharaoh called Joseph and quickly brought him out of the pit. All right. The cupbearer's confession is not triggered by gratitude. He doesn't remember Joseph. Remember, we talked about there was a covenant with Joseph and the cupbearer. Okay, he was going to interpret this thing if the guy was going to remember him.
Yeah.
That was the covenant. Remember, we talked about that. And Joseph, he interpreted it, but the cupbearer didn't fulfill his part, right?
Right.
But it worked out because the time, again, we don't understand. We want to pile on the cupbearer here for not remembering, and rightly so. But it wouldn't have mattered until this point.
Right.
I mean, there's no reason to say, oh, hey, Pharaoh, this guy interpreted my dream correctly, and Pharaoh would have been like, so what? Who cares? Right? But at this point, when there's a crisis, the Lord knew that this is the time when it would have mattered, and it would have been significant enough to bring Joseph out from jail, right? So it wasn't from gratitude, it was providence. It was the Lord working through him. Even though the cupbearer was using it for self-interest, the Yahweh was working through him, even through some of those things. A lesser point is, I mean, we all go through these really tough times in life, right? Everybody does at some point, right?
For sure.
So sometimes, which is, in my life, the times that are the toughest are when I'm closest to the Lord. When you really have to rely on Him, and you really just put everything before Him, which is ridiculous. Why do we wait till there's a crisis to put everything before the Lord? I don't understand. I'm so stupid sometimes. But anyway, so recently we've been through some tough things going on, really tough things, and I've just been really, really talking to the Lord, and it's like, even when I was going through cancer, the same thing happened when I was going through cancer. When I thought I was going to die, I wasn't sure if I was going to die or not. I was just like, Lord, it's whatever. I don't want to die. Will you please save me? And I was just over and over again, Father, just like Jesus said, if you ask my Father anything in my name, He will do it. And He says it 4 times in 2 chapters in John. And I was like, Father, in the name of Jesus, please let me live from this cancer. Please heal me from this cancer. And He said, yeah, I'm going to heal you from this cancer. And it wasn't like a voice came or He came before me and like spoke to me. I didn't see that. It wasn't like Abraham where 4 guys visited me and one of them was Yahweh. It wasn't like that. He doesn't have to do that anymore because we have the Holy Spirit, right?
Correct.
But so through the physiological mechanism in our own, whoever we are, He can speak through us through that.
Yeah.
He uses that mechanism through the Holy Spirit to speak through us through that. And I didn't hear a voice. I don't hear very well anyway. I probably wouldn't have heard it. But my spiritual ears were also deaf sometimes because we can't hear Him sometimes because we're not listening, or we're distracted, or there's other stuff loud going on. All right. But in these times when it's still and you're just talking, I can hear Him. And he doesn't speak audibly. It's a spiritual thing that He uses whatever our spirit and mind and things that we have. He uses that mechanism to speak through us through that. And I know exactly what He's saying. It's not, He's speaking to me and telling me things and communicating with me. And I don't know how that works, but I can't hear it unless I'm listening or I'm not distracted. Okay. Anyway, and Joseph it's the same type thing with this cupbearer. Even Yahweh's not. He doesn't have the Holy Spirit, but He uses whatever mechanism this is in his life to work through this guy, and that's how the Lord works. Even people that aren't believers, He can use whatever human mechanisms we have to work and to make things work out for His will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen.
All right. As He interpreted to us, verse 13, so it came about, right? Bring it about. The narrative's own confirmation of Joseph's reliability, okay? They hurried him out of the boor. We've talked about the boor before, okay?
The dungeon.
The dungeon, the pit, all right? It's the same word, dungeon or pit, boor, all right? The same word as the pit used in Genesis 37:24. It's a deliberate echo of his first imprisonment. Okay, the author is basically using this same terminology to remind us that this is a cycle in Joseph's life, and this is something that's happening over and over again. Okay, Joseph shaves before the audience with the Pharaoh. Okay, an Egyptian, not Semitic grooming convention. Okay. This foreshadows his coming assimilation, all right? So, yeah. So, He doesn't just do this of His own will, right? They're like, you can't go before Pharaoh if you look like that.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to be presentable. So he has to shave his beard. So the Semitic convention wouldn't have been to shave his beard like that. So smooth-faced, shave completely. All right? That's what he did. All right? It's an Egyptian way of presenting before Pharaoh, right? So he's assimilating already. The Lord is already using this system to make him assimilate into this culture. Okay? All right. Belade, apart from me, Joseph disclaims competence and names. He uses Elohim here. He uses Elohim as the true source, the theological center of the chapter. Now, we've talked about this before. Why does sometimes it use Yahweh and sometimes it uses Elohim? Why in this case would he use Elohim?
Well, it's about the context of where he is. He's contextualizing the name of God to his people, to these people. Is that what you're getting? Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. So does Pharaoh know Yahweh? Does he know anything about Yahweh?
No.
He's probably never even heard the word before. He's like, okay, whatever. But Elohim, the word for God, and he probably used I don't know if he had an interpreter. I'm sure Joseph actually knows Egyptian.
He's probably
the Egyptian language by now.
It's been 13 years. So.
Yeah, 13 years. He's been in the house he's slave of Potiphar. Now he's in dungeon talking to Egyptian people all the time. He probably knows the Egyptian language, right? Yeah. So he's probably speaking Egyptian himself. So he uses the Egyptian word. No idea what the Egyptian word for the Elohim translation would be. But anyway, that whatever that word is, that's what he says. Yeah. Their word for God, Elohim. Okay? Yes, to contextualize God.
Yep.
Right? Not say something that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Using fancy when you're talking to somebody that doesn't know anything about Christianity, using fancy theological words. Oh, well, we want you to be justified, and then after that,
glorified, and exactly.
Yeah, using fancy theological words, you have to use words that people can understand and be able to take it to heart, right? And so that's what he's doing. He's contextualizing the name of God here, Elohim, instead of Yahweh. That's why they use it in different contexts. So verse 25 through 32.
Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he's about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about."
The dream of Pharaoh is one. Okay, Joseph reads and interprets this rightly, both dreams as a single unified divine disclosure, not image by image decoding. Okay, so he's not exegesing the dream. He's not taking each word like we do sometimes. Sometimes exegesis is great, where we take word by word because you get a lot. And when we in our small group when we're going through the Hebrew, it's really important to know the phrases and the words and the things like that. But sometimes you get a little too cute for britches,
Yeah.
Like you have offensive coordinator who's calling these plays and he's trying to set up stuff, but dude, you're running the ball. You're running the ball and you get 7 yards of carry.
Then you get down inside the 5 and you start trying to throw
and then
the
you
ball.
start getting cute.
Yeah.
And you're pounding it down their throats. Just keep doing it. Anyway, they get too cute for the britches. Same thing in exegesis. We get too cute for our britches sometimes, right? Sometimes we just got to look at it and see what the overall thing means. That's what Joseph does. He's like, yeah, they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Sova. Okay, abundance, followed by ra'av, famine. So we have this 7 years. Again, the 7 is significant. Everybody knows that. Everybody that does these things will talk about how the 7 is significant. Of course, it's the number of completion. Okay, so we have the 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, doubled. Okay, and we'll talk about why both of those are important. But everybody will talk about the 7 years is important because it's the number of completion, right? So we're not going to belabor that. But we have this sova followed by the ra'av, okay? The abundance followed by the famine. It's so severe, it erases the memory of the plenty, okay? The same root, forget, shachach. Okay. Remember that hard word because those
yeah, the chachach.
They have the kaf and the chaf right after each other. The shachach, as the cupbearer is forgetting of Joseph, 40 and verse 23. Okay, 40 verse 23. The same word, shachach. So the famine is so severe. So those skinny cows are consuming the fat cows and making them forget. All right.
Yeah.
So when I was eating that gross mansef, like the disgusting mansef, those poor little people, they were trying, listen, they were trying so hard to honor us. That's all they had.
Yep.
They gave us what they had, and we really appreciated it. And we went to that village and did some projects there. I don't know if it was, I don't know what happened, but they were just trying to honor us and bless us, right?
Yeah.
But the memory of that gross, do I remember all the great mansef I had? No, I remember that gross. We're not talking about all the wonderful, delicious mansef I had. I'm talking about that gross mansef, right? So I remember that. That makes you forget all the good stuff, right? And we do that in our life. That's kind of...
we constantly have discussions with our kids. They'll have a great day. Something bad will happen at the end, and that's all they think about. They complain about the bad thing that happened.
So you could have, the whole day is great, and that one thing happens wrong, and then it
destroys them. Yeah. It's like.
So anyway, it's similar to that. Okay. The matter is fixed by God. Okay. So this matter, the doubling of the dream, is a divine seal of certainty and imminence. Okay. So the doubling is really important. Again, everybody talks about that. Everybody knows that because it says it in the text.
Yeah.
So it's a divine seal of certainty and imminence. This required not cleverness, but revelation, exactly what Egypt's court could never supply. Okay? So they have these guys, their whole job is to interpret dreams.
Yeah.
Okay? And poter. Nobody can. And you got this slave, this Hebrew slave kid in jail, who always interprets the dreams correctly because Yahweh is with him.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to verse
33.
Verse 33 to 36. All right, so we've interpreted the dream. Joseph's brought up. We've interpreted the dream, and now we get to verse 33.
Now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. The food that shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine.
So this is still Joseph speaking here, obviously. And so this goes beyond interpretation, okay? So we see, even in all of these A&E examples we've seen, okay, all the literature where we see people interpreting dreams and things like that. A lot of people, in many cases, we see people interpreting dreams, rightly or not rightly, we don't see. Even in the Bible, we see many dreams that are interpreted.
Yeah.
But rarely do we see a plan of action based on the interpretation of those dreams, right?
Interesting.
Just think about it. Think about any of the dream interpretation sequences we can see. This is one of the few where not only is the dream interpreted correctly, but the interpreter is the one that comes up with the plan of action that is the advisor to the person of power so that he can do something to about the interpretation of the dream.
Yeah.
Right? And it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant by Yahweh to use this through Joseph because it places the possibility so that Joseph could be exalted to the place he's going to be exalted to.
Yeah.
All right. This is what sets the scene for Joseph to be exalted. All right. So the discerning and wise man, he advises Pharaoh that he sets up this ish navom ve'chacham, discerning and wise man. The standard Egypt's own failed wise man could not meet. Okay. So they have these these chachomim, these wise men, chachomim, that they couldn't meet this standard. But this Hebrew dude in jail
Figured it out
and is advising the king on the correct plan of action to reconcile the problems that are going to be faced. Joseph proposes, unbidden, a 20% grain tax, a fifth, during the plentiful years, stored under royal authority. Okay? This fits a well-attested Middle Kingdom bureaucratic capacity for centralized agrarian administration. We talked about that earlier, how a lot of people think this means it's probably under the Middle Kingdom time period, an early Joseph, early Exodus type thing. All right, it's debated, and I'm not saying that's necessarily the right view, but this fits with what we see in the Middle Kingdom agrarian administration, things like that.
Yeah.
The structural echo with the patriarchal tithe principle. So Genesis 14:20, 28:22, abundance set apart in proportion against future needs. So let's read Genesis 14:20 and 28:22.
Blessed be the God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything.
All right, so this is again, I love this story. Genesis 14 is one of my favorite chapters in all the Bible. It's got a lot of hard names in it. But remember, it's the confederation of the kings from the east who conquer the giants, who come and conquer the Sodom and Gomorrah and their allies where Lot is, and they take them they take them as slaves, okay, as booty, and then Abram and his 318 guys,
316, something like that, yeah,
318 guys, 318 Bedouin guys. All right, so you got these kings. They've just been conquering as they came west. Yeah. They beat all, and talks about how they beat all the giant tribes. They beat this giant tribe and this giant tribe and this giant tribe. These great warriors. They're seasoned veteran warriors. Take out Sodom and Gomorrah and those cities like nothing, right? And take them all as booty. Abram and 318 Bedouin guys goes and beat them. Yeah. It's divine. It's divine intervention. And then it shows that this passage showed in verse 20 that Abram tithed from the spoils that he gathered from the victory. Right. 28:22.
And this stone which I've set up for a pillar shall be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will give a full tenth to you. Yeah.
So again, the principle of tithing, okay, setting aside something for Elohim. Yeah, that's Jacob. Beit El. This is God's house, Beit El, right? Yeah. That'll be significant later when we talk about a lot of other things. Beit El, if we ever get to those things. Okay. In whom is the Spirit of God? 37-40, all right?
This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you.
Ish asher ruach Elohim bo. Can we find like this, in whom is the Spirit of God, Ruach Elohim. Okay, so again, Pharaoh.
This is interesting because he's pagan.
He's an Egyptian Pharaoh, pagan guy. Even if he is Semitic, right? He doesn't follow Yahweh. No. He's a pagan Semitic guy, right? Yeah. So, but in whom is this Ruach Elohim? Yeah. The Spirit of God. Okay.
I've always thought that was interesting because, like you said, how does he know who the Spirit of God is, or that it even exists? It's amazing.
It's identical in construction to Genesis 1:2, and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. Yeah. The Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of God. Okay? And then Exodus 31:3, and then the story of Bezalel, right? And then Judges 3:10. Othniel, right? So all these talking about the Spirit of God and other places too. Ruach Elohim, okay? A pagan king, like what Brad just said, correctly perceives genuine divine action. He corroborates what the reader's known since 39, 2-3, verse 21, verse 23, that Yahweh, now he doesn't say Yahweh because he doesn't know Yahweh.
Yeah.
Yahweh was with Joseph, right? The Spirit of God is on him. Yahweh is with Joseph. So this pagan guy sees the obvious that this Ruach Elohim is with Joseph. The Lord is with Joseph, right? What we've known all along. Joseph consistently says Elohim. We've talked about this over many times. Never Yahweh, because he's contextualizing, right? He knows him as Yahweh, but Pharaoh doesn't. So he uses Elohim, a contextualization of God. Verse 40, by your mouth shall all my people order themselves. So this is total delegated authority, second only to Pharaoh himself.
He's the vice Pharaoh.
The vice Pharaoh, basically. By your mouth shall all my people order themselves. Okay, this
Deputy
is
Pharaoh.
Yeah, total authority, right?
Yep.
All right, verse 41 to 45.
And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain on his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot. And they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up a hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zephanath-paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over the land of Egypt.
He's making him. This is the ascension of Joseph to the throne. Okay, to the highest place besides Pharaoh in the land. Okay, and so we've talked about this before. So the taba'at, the signet ring, the taba'at.
Yep.
Okay, that is basically the Pharaoh saying, you have total authority. Okay, total authority. Okay, shish, fine linen. Again, only the elite of the elite wear this type of clothing. Okay. Listen, in our modern context, it's just hard for us to understand stuff like this.
Yeah.
But even in all of the ancient world, even until pretty modern times, you don't go to Belk or Walmart and just buy whatever clothes you want to anytime. They didn't have closets full of clothes where you could wear multiple outfits per day.
No.
That's only a really this century.
Modern. Yeah.
This half of century thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very modern thing, right? Even the poorest poor have multiple outfits.
Yeah.
I was watching some stupid Jason Statham movie last night, and he has to go, and he's like a homeless guy. Right? Yeah. And so he's in this homeless shelter, and this guy asks the guy next to the cot next to him, shows him his feet that he doesn't have. Jason Statham's character has these nice shoes because he was just recently homeless, right? So he has multiple clothes with him.
Yeah.
This other homeless guy, his shoes are in tatters, his feet are all bloody and gross, and he asks him for his shoes, and Statham's like, okay, so he gives the guy his shoes.
Wow.
Even a homeless guy has multiple pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But in this time, you had what you had.
Yeah.
You had barely one outfit or two outfits, right? And there's rare cases, only the elite have multiple outfits, right? And only the elite can afford this type of fine linen, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's only because it's given to you. And in Joseph's case, this shish is only given to him. There's no way he could ever afford. He doesn't have any money. He's been in jail, right?
True.
He has nothing.
Yeah.
He was a slave, and he's in jail. He's only got what people give to him.
Yeah.
Right. All right. The ravod, the gold chain. Ravid. This gold chain. A second chariot. The gold chain, we talked about, that's like Mr. T's collar, right?
Yeah.
It's like a whole thing. You see that in
a lot of
Egyptian
hieroglyphics and even on their
art
in the tombs.
In the tomb, things like that. We've all seen it. We see it. That gold. What the Pharaoh has this, or the important people have this gold chain, this gold collar type thing. That's what it is. That type of gold collar, and it's only for the elite. It shows your status in society. Yeah. So Joseph goes from the boor, the pit, to a gold chain, to Mr. T's chain.
That's right.
All right. A second chariot. Okay. The abrech. Okay. The cry. So the abrech is like, and they called out before him, bow the knee.
Oh, I see.
Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. So he gets the second chariot. I mean, the second chariot is the second chariot.
Yeah.
And so I guess he had a first, it says he has a second chariot. So I guess he had a first chariot.
Or it could be Pharaoh's is the first chariot. And
that means he's like the second chariot.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're exactly right. That's right. So gets his second chariot, made him ride in his second chariot. So it's Pharaoh's second chariot.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Gee whiz. I don't know, I missed that.
That's okay.
And they called, so the abrech is and they called out before him, bow the knee, and thus they set him over all the land of Egypt. So that's if you remember in the story of Esther, where Haman was given the clothes and the royal clothes and the royal horse, and he was going off, and they cried out before him, bow before Haman, and then Mordecai was like, no.
Right. It's like when people say, that's not my president.
That's right. That's right. Exactly like that. So anyway, they were supposed to bow before Joseph because he's basically a representative of Pharaoh. Yeah. It's like Pharaoh's mouth, okay? Every item attested, item by item, in Egyptian court iconography and inscriptional practice. So we see this in the iconography, and we see it in inscriptional art, in hieroglyphics on the walls of tombs, all those things that we see when we think of ancient Egypt. We see each of these things attested to, okay? The new name, Zephanath Paneach. We don't really know exactly what it means. Proposed meanings might be God speaks and he lives, or sustainer of life, something like that. But we don't really know exactly. There's not a consensus on what we think it exactly.
They think this is this Egyptian transliterated?
Yeah, it's some kind of it's like an Egyptian name, like Moshe, like Moses.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's an Egyptian type name, but we don't know what it means because it's not a Hebrew word.
Yeah, right.
Zephanath Paneach. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't know. God speaks and he lives, or sustainer of life. Those are two proposals.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know what I believe in. It doesn't really matter. And then he's married to Asenath. Okay. This grafts Joseph into Egyptians' highest religious aristocracy. Okay. Full naturalization. He's got the clothes, the name, the family alliance.
Yep.
He's got everything that would establish him in the elite status in Egypt. Not just elite, but like the elite of the elite. Okay? And then, so he's married to the daughter of the priest of On, Potipharah. Okay? And then we know that we have these two sons that are born, Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay? Half Egyptian by birth, will be fully adopted to Israel's 12 tribes in Genesis 48. It's a patriarchal era, Goyim, nations inclusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, it's not, we ain't Jews and Gentiles at this point. Do we got to understand this? There's no Jews.
No, that doesn't exist.
There's no Jew-Gentile thing. All right. It's Goyim. It's Bnei Israel and the nations. Goyim. Yeah. Right. So this is Manasseh and Ephraim. We see it over and over again where God does it. I mean, Israel, Bnei Israel, they're established, but it's not just Bnei Israel. His plan, and we will see a very important, with the blessing of Jacob over Ephraim, and so Ephraim and Manasseh take Joseph's place, right? Because he gets a double portion. He becomes the firstborn, in essence, okay? He gets that double blessing that the firstborn son would. And it's through his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And we're going to see through Joseph and Ephraim's line that some just theologically amazing things are going to happen. There's two things that are going to happen. One, and we're going to talk about, and we may have multiple episodes about this. One is it's through Ephraim, the calling of the Goyim, the calling of the nations back to the covenant people. Okay, really important. And then also we're going to talk about this really interesting concept that we read through David Mitchell's book, Messiah ben Joseph. Okay, about how Jesus, similar to Melchizedek and in the order of Melchizedek, where he was priest and king, is not just a Judah king. He's also the line of Ephraim, Joseph Ephraim.
Oh.
So we'll talk about those things. Really interesting stuff to talk about. Okay, so we got in verse 50 and 52, we're just going to skip and then we'll come back.
Okay.
So Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh is, it kind of plays on, he has made me forget, okay? Nashani, okay? But Joseph has not forgotten his father's house at all. The naming marks the healing of grief's edge. It's not erasing the covenant identity. He's just remembered it. He's not forgotten, okay? Ephraim is kind of like Hepraini, okay? He has made me fruitful, okay? The para, the fruit, para, that the creation mandate, Genesis 1:28, and the Abrahamic fruitfulness, Genesis 17:6 and 20, the promise of the blessing, right? So para, fruit, okay? In the land of my affliction, even Egypt becomes a site of covenant fruitfulness. It's going to become even more affliction, but it's covenant remembering and fruitfulness. Okay, Ephraim's name will carry immense theological weight through the rest of the Old Testament. We'll talk about that. Okay, so verses 46 through 57. Let's read those.
Okay.
We just read part of it, or talked about part of it.
Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly, and he gathered up all the food of these 7 years which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it, and Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured. After the year of famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenat, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second son he called Ephraim, for God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. There was famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, Go to Joseph. What he says to you, do. So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth.
Okay, so all the earth, okay. Kavatz, gather. So it's the same root that we later use for Israel's eschatological ingathering from exile, okay? So it's just, I love it. Kavatz. So let's read Isaiah 11:12 and Ezekiel 11:17. Let's read those 2 major prophets about this eschatological ingathering, this eschatological gathering.
Isaiah says, He will raise a signal for the nations and will assemble the banished of Israel and gather the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth.
Kavatz. Ezekiel 11:17.
Therefore say, Thus says the Lord God, I will gather you from the peoples and assemble you out of the countries where you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel.
Kabatz. Grain is stored like the sand of the sea. It directly echoes the Abrahamic seed promise, Genesis 22:17. The rescued food supply is described in the covenant's own idiom. Okay? So, again, this is fulfillment. Biblical prophecy is not just like, oh, I'm going to prophesy this great event, it's going to come true. That is part of it. But we see typology throughout.
Yeah.
So this is a typos of the covenantal fruitfulness, okay? The seed, okay? The nations coming because the Lord has caused them to come, okay? Yeah. And again, this is a catastrophe. This is really bad.
Yeah.
It's possible people die. But the Lord has caused the nations to come for this very reason, so that they can be saved. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay?
Agreed.
Kol haaretz, all the earth. The same phrase as Genesis 12:3's Abrahamic blessing to the nations clause. Kol haaretz, all the earth. Kol haaretz. Okay? Genesis 41:57 is the Joseph narrative's first great down payment on the promise that all the families of the earth would be blessed through Abraham's seed. And we'll see that fulfilled through Joseph and Ephraim, and eventually through Mashiach. Okay? So Joseph's exaltation directly advances this promise of the seed, Genesis 45:5-7, as Joseph's own later interpretation. We're going to see that when we get there. Ephraim's naming, para, fruitful, ties directly to this fruitfulness, the fruitfulness promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The covenant promises shows that this fruitfulness, even in exile, can occur even in exile, even under a foreign crown. Even among the Goyim, the nations, this fruitfulness will occur. And not only even in, but always in. Okay, we're going to see this theme over and over again. In the nations, this fruitfulness occurs. Okay, the chapter's closing, Kol haaretz, all the earth, is the first concrete historical fulfillment of Genesis 12:3, 18:18, and 22:18's blessing to the nations clause. Genesis 41 is a load-bearing link from Genesis 12 to the eschatological visions of the prophets, streaming to Zion. Let's read Isaiah 2:2-3, and 63, and we'll end there.
It shall come to pass in the latter days that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established as the highest of the mountains, and shall be lifted up above the hills, and all the nations shall flow to it. And many peoples shall come and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. In 60...
The Lord Yahweh. That's the Logos, the word of the Lord.
Yep. And the nations shall come to your light,
Agoyim,
and kings to the brightness of your rising.
This eschatological nations being ingathered to Yahweh, to the mountain of the Lord, okay, to the word from Jerusalem.
It's beautiful.
This Devar Yahweh, who is the Logos, Messiah, Jesus. This is Jesus. This is a typology of God fulfilling the Abrahamic fruitful blessing promise in a foreign place, a pagan foreign place, where he eventually will bring all nations to himself.
Amen. Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you guys for joining us and being a part of Covenants and Kingdoms, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. See ya.